I just wanted to do a brief update about where we're at with MidnightBSD. We recently released 1.2.7 release, which had a bunch of bug fixes in it. The last couple of updates of, there's been several security patches in 1.2.5, 1.2.6. There's been some bug fixes for the USB stack with sound, and also the package manager has gotten a lot of bug fixes during the 1.2 cycle. So it's strongly recommended that you update if you're on an older release. We also recently put up some new ISOs and flash drive memory stick images that you can use for installing 1.2.7 directly, so you don't have to do 1.2 and update. So that's available now. Recently, we also updated the packages. In the last week or two, we've had a package update for both 32-bit and 64-bit MidnightBSD. In terms of current, right now it doesn't compile. I'm in the middle of doing some major updates to a number of systems. At the moment, I'm working on fixing some bugs with dtrace, but there's been some updates to the ZFS code. There's been some updates to the compiler. Various other parts of the system are kind of all in flux right now. So it's strongly recommended to stay on the stable 1.2 branch indefinitely until you hear otherwise. Beyond that, I'm really excited about the next release. The version number might change. Like right now, current is called 1.3, but I think I'm going to probably make that 2.0. We're also considering doing a 1.3 bug fix release. That's basically the 1.2 stable branch with a couple of third-party apps that need security patching, maybe Open Secure Shell, SQLite, stuff like that, Perl. I'm strongly considering doing that just because of how long this release is taking, the 2.0 release now. I've been working on that this whole year pretty much. So that's kind of where we're at with that. I don't know, there's been some questions lately about how to get updated packages, which I've solved. There's been a lot of security updates and ports, so people have been asking me about specific ports. Our X11 port needs some updating, so like the Xorg server port is out of date, and that's one of my next tasks to work on. The X11 lib, or libx11 I should say, library has been updated for a recent security vulnerability. We also updated the sudo port. OpenSSL, LibreSSL, WolfSSL have all been updated in the last month or two. In general, there's been a lot of security updates lately with a lot of ports. So there's a number of things that are already out of date in the package build because we've had to do security patches on them. So I'll probably do another package run soon. Let's see. We just updated our build server. So we kind of switched a couple years ago to using VMware ESXi, and then we do installs of MidnightBSD, different architecture and releases for both testing, building ISOs, and also doing package builds now. So all of that was happening on a Core i7 7700 with 32 gigs of RAM and 2 hard drives. So the new build, I basically just upgraded in place. So now we have a 10700 i7 with an ASRock or USRock, however you say it, motherboard, and an NVMe drive. So performance is significantly better. I'm kind of blown away with how much faster it is. I mean, the disk I/O obviously was a huge one, but the Core i7 was pretty slow after the Meltdown Spectre patches. So the new one's actually pretty fast. So that probably cut about a day off builds for packages. We're up to about 4,500 packages now that attempt to get built, maybe 4,600, kind of in that range. And going all over here, I didn't really plan what I was going to say, so I'm sorry about the rambling. But that's pretty much where the project's at right now. Current's in flux. We're working on a lot of package builds. We set up the new bug tracking system. We're now using Jira instead of Bugzilla, and we got an open source license from Atlassian for that. It's still bugreport.midnightbsd.org. It's also okay to file bug reports on GitHub now that we're on there if you want to. I know a lot of people are more comfortable with that. Either's fine. I do kind of like using Jira because it's easier to manage the tickets, but whatever works for you, I'm okay with that. Feel free also, you can merge in, you can do PRs, you can submit, but patches either for the base system or to add ports or to fix ports or to update ports. Um, you know, I'm totally open to that. In terms of porting work, I've been attempting yet again to get a native Rust build working. Some of you may know we have a Rust bin port that's basically a old version from FreeBSD packages that I managed to get to work. It's kind of fragile because it depends on a lot of old packages, like an old version of OpenSSL and whatnot. So I kind of hacked it up a little bit to get it to a point where it would run, but Cargo is really fragile. So the right solution for this is to get Rust natively ported, obviously. So I'm kind of doing an intermediate step where I'm getting it to build, but impersonating FreeBSD right now. But I've hit some snags. So the latest version of Rust does not build because our base system compiler is really old. And for whatever reason, I cannot get it to work with a ports compiler either. So like LLVM7, LLVM6 do not work in ports to build it. So then I tried going back to a really old release, 1.2.0, which I knew worked on FreeBSD 10.4, which is roughly where we're at equivalent-wise. That also failed. The issue there is that our OpenSSL port got updated to 1.1.1, and Cargo is super fragile about OpenSSL versions. And some of the Rust OpenSSL library has like exact version checks for all of the SSL libraries. So that was kind of a pain. I almost got it to build using the system OpenSSL, which is older, but the problem is that it has to link to curl and libssh2 and a couple of other libraries, and those are in turn linked on the new ports OpenSSL. So that's a deal breaker. So my next step is to try to find the oldest version that works with OpenSSL 1.1.1 and see if I can get that to work. Every time I have to basically port LLVM inside the package as well as several Rust files, so it's very time consuming to try a new version. I don't know if this is going to work or not. I'm not a big Rust fan personally, but there are a lot of things that depend on it now. It's starting to get really popular. Obviously, Firefox doesn't work without it. So there's a lot of reasons to actually get Rust in the ports tree, regardless of my personal preferences about it. I did ask on the Rust, one of the Rust groups in Reddit the other day, what version is the latest that works with OpenSSL, or earliest, I should say, that works with OpenSSL. And they told me it was 1.26. So that is the next version I'm going to try. Hopefully I have success with that. Once current is actually released, that version will have a much newer version of LLVM in base, and we should theoretically be able to upgrade to a lot newer version of Rust by then. That's kind of my plan, but we'll see what happens. In the meantime, that's kind of where we're at with the Rust port. I'm not sure what other, Xorg obviously needs work. I'm going to attempt to upgrade the X server and some of that stuff soonish. I don't want to spend too much time on that because I'd rather get the new version, in current actually fixed and building at least. The other warning I want to give is that even when current builds right now, I have not started the work on the needed changes for the installer. So you'll have to do a source upgrade short term when that's working from 1.2. I'm actually kind of merging in a bunch of code from FreeBSD and a couple of other sources with this release. So it's kind of a big jump. And one of the things FreeBSD did in their newer releases was use the package, their package manager, to actually build the install files for installing the base system. So I'm not going to use package. Most likely, I do not want to for obvious reasons. So I need to add some functionality to import, most likely to do that, or possibly just kind of backport the old installation pattern for now and have it install tarballs. So that's kind of where I'm at. I hope this is helpful for people. Thanks.